The rain was relentless that night, hammering the tin roof of Caleb's small diner like it was trying to break through. Inside, the neon open sign flickered, casting a warm glow over the cracked vinyl booths. Caleb, a single dad with calloused hands and a heart too big for his own good, wiped down the counter for the third time that evening. Business was slow, but that was nothing new in this forgotten corner of Oklahoma. At 38, Caleb was used to scraping by raising his son, Ethan, on late-night tips and stubborn hope. But tonight, something felt different, like the air was holding its breath. He was about to flip the sign to closed when the bell above the door jingled. A woman in a wheelchair rolled in, her face weary but defiant, flanked by two girls no older than 10, their identical faces streaked with rain and something heavier, fear, maybe, or shame. Their clothes were soaked, too thin for the October chill, and they carried nothing but a single duffel bag between them. "Evening," Caleb said, his voice soft but steady. "Y'all hungry?" The woman, Lila, hesitated, her hands gripping the arms of her wheelchair. We don't have much," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The girls, Mia and Mara, clung to her side, their eyes darting around like they expected trouble. Caleb didn't push. He just nodded and slid 3 plates of meatloaf and mashed potatoes across the counter. "On the house," he said with a shrug, like it was no big deal. But it was. The diner was barely breaking even, and Ethan's school fees were overdue. Still, Caleb couldn't ignore the hollow look in their eyes. He'd seen it before on his own face, after his wife walked out 5 years ago, leaving him and Ethan to piece their lives back together. Lila tried to protest, but Caleb waved her off. "Eat first. Talk later." And so they did, the girls devouring their food like they hadn't eaten in days. Between bites, Lila shared fragments of their story. They'd been evicted from their apartment in Tulsa, cast out after Lila's medical bills piled too high. Her spinal injury, from a car accident years ago, made finding work nearly impossible. Shelters were full, and they had nowhere to go. The twins, quiet but watchful, listened as their mother spoke, their hands clasped tightly together. Caleb didn't think twice. "I got a spare room above the diner," he said. "It's not much, but it's warm and dry. Stay as long as you need." Lila's eyes welled up, but she nodded, too exhausted to argue. Ethan, who'd been sweeping the floor, shot his dad a look, part pride, part worry. At 13, he knew their own budget was stretched thin, but he didn't say a word. He just carried their duffel bag upstairs. The days that followed were a quiet kind of chaos. Lila and the twins settled in, their presence filling the diner with a strange new energy. Mia, the bolder twin, helped Ethan bus tables, her quick laugh brightening the place. Mara, quieter and more thoughtful, sketched in a tattered notebook, her drawings intricate and haunting. Lila, despite her pain, insisted on helping with bookkeeping, her sharp mind catching errors Caleb had missed for years. They became a makeshift family, bound not by blood but by something deeper, trust, maybe, or survival. But there were whispers in town. Folks noticed the strangers living above the diner and wondered why Caleb, already struggling, would take in more mouths to feed. "He's got a heart bigger than his wallet," the postman said, shaking his head. Caleb ignored the gossip. He saw the way Ethan and the twins laughed together, the way Lila's smile softened when she thought no one was looking. It was enough. Then came the first twist. One evening, a man in a tailored suit walked into the diner, his polished shoes out of place on the worn linoleum. He introduced himself as Mr. Hargrove, a lawyer from Dallas. His eyes locked on Mara, who was sketching in a corner booth. "I need to speak with you about your daughter," he said to Lila, his voice low but urgent. Lila's face paled. "Which one?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Mara," Hargrove said. She's an heir." The room seemed to tilt. Caleb, wiping down the counter, froze. Ethan and Mia stopped mid-conversation, their eyes wide. Lila shook her head, confused. "That's impossible. Their father died years ago. He was a mechanic, not whoever you're talking about." Hargrove explained, his words careful but relentless. Mara's biological father wasn't the man Lila had married. Before the accident, before the twins, Lila had a brief relationship with a man named Victor Langston, a reclusive billionaire who'd vanished from public life. Langston had died recently, leaving no known heirs except one. A DNA test, conducted discreetly years ago, had linked Mara to him. The estate, worth billions, was hers. Lila's hands shook as she gripped her wheelchair. "Why didn't he tell me?" she whispered, tears spilling over. Mara, still clutching her pencil, looked up, her face blank with shock. Mia grabbed her sister's hand, her usual boldness replaced by fear. Caleb felt his chest tighten, not with envy, but with something heavier, a sense of change coming, unstoppable. The news could have torn them apart. Lila worried the money would change Mara, change them all. She refused to touch the inheritance, insisting they didn't need it. "We've made it this far without him," she said fiercely. But Caleb saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of years spent fighting to survive. He saw Mara's quiet fear, too, the way she stopped sketching, as if the weight of her new identity was too much to carry. The emotional climax came one quiet Sunday morning. The diner was closed, and the five of them sat around a table, sunlight streaming through the windows. Lila was still wrestling with the decision, take the money and risk losing themselves, or keep struggling and hold on to who they were. Mara, usually so reserved, spoke up, her voice steady but small. "I don't want to be someone else," she said, looking at Caleb. "You took us in when no one else would. You didn't know about any money. You just cared. That's what matters." Caleb's throat tightened. He thought of his own choices, opening his home, his heart, to strangers when he had so little to give. He thought of Ethan, who'd given up his bed for the twins without complaint. He thought of Lila, who'd fought for her girls through pain and loss. And in that moment, he realized something profound. Kindness wasn't just about giving. It was about building something bigger than yourself. "Lila," Caleb said, his voice rough but warm, "that money's Mara's. It's a chance to make things easier, not just for you but for others. You can do good with it. You already know how." Lila looked at him, then at her girls, and finally nodded. The decision wasn't about wealth, it was about purpose. They'd stay together, not as strangers thrown together by chance, but as a family forged by choice. Months later, the diner was still open, but it was different now. Lila used part of the inheritance to renovate the place, turning it into a community hub where anyone could eat, no questions asked. Mara's sketches hung on the walls, a quiet testament to her heart. Mia trained to become a junior chef, her laughter filling the kitchen. Ethan, proud of his dad, started talking about college for the first time. And Caleb? He still wiped down the counters every night, but now he did it with a smile, knowing he'd helped build something that mattered. The heartwarming truth settled over them like the Oklahoma sun. Kindness, given freely, could change the world. It didn't matter where you came from or what you had. It mattered what you did with it. And in that little diner, a single dad, a wheelchair-bound mom, and two twin girls proved that love and compassion could turn even the hardest moments into a legacy of hope.